So now two run-of-the-mill Kansas City business owners are being roasted and being doxxed by people in their own community for potentially doing something that is legal, that is entirely allowed, but that in the eyes of some is controversial. So this popped over the weekend, and actually this started last week when the Kansas City Star started to do some digging into the company and the individuals who are considering selling their warehouse to the federal government. So this ties in, obviously, South Kansas City, where, of course, this warehouse, which is owned by this group, Platform Ventures, is considering selling that warehouse to ICE to turn it into a detention center. Of course, that led 2 weeks ago to Kansas City announcing it's going to have a moratorium that it passed to try to prevent this from going through. The mayor of Kansas City was on CBS's Face the Nation yesterday talking about this. I'll get to that coming up. But this has led to now basically people doxing these two individuals who run Platform Ventures. It started with some pieces in the Kansas City Star. David Hundle wrote a piece headlined, "The brothers behind Platform Ventures could choose not to sell out Kansas City to ICE." David Hundle is a columnist who just joined the opinion team, and this was his first story for the Kansas City Star editorial board. And he goes on to note that he went to high school at Rockhurst with these two brothers, Ryan and Terry Anderson. He writes here, "They were a few years behind me. We know a lot of the same people. Terry followed me on X last week. I thought maybe he had something he wanted to get off his chest. But my DMs went unanswered, direct messages. Same with my phone calls and emails. I probably should have assumed the Andersons didn't want any more attention, given that they took their website offline a few weeks ago. And when it came back online, their names and faces were not there anymore." So this Kansas City Star writer goes on to basically try to shame these two brothers, who he went to high school with at Rockhurst, into not potentially selling their warehouse facility on Botts Road to the federal government. It's a perfectly legal transaction, obviously. You don't have to like it, but it's a perfectly legal transaction. And now what they're doing on, when it comes to media is trying to basically say these people shouldn't do it. Now, this would be like me going out there and saying, hey, I think that the Chiefs shouldn't be going to KCK. I think that this practice facility in Olathe is a bad idea. And then bringing up the people who own the land as the bad guys in all this. I have not done that, and I would never do that. They have every right to sell their land to the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't have to like it for the taxpayer. I can question it on what it means for the regular fan. I've done all of that. But I've never made out the landowner to be the bad guy because it's a perfectly legal transaction. We can question how star bonds are used, whether or not that's the best move for the state, how that impacts the taxpayer. But in terms of the Chiefs buying property, well, that's the free market at work. You could question the government rezoning potential land for such and such complex. You can have those conversations. But none of this is the fault of the landowner. Same thing here with the ICE facility, potential ICE facility in South Kansas City. It is a perfectly legal transaction that may take place between the federal government and this firm. So what are they doing now, though, in the Kansas City Star? They're really doxing these two brothers who own this company that may ultimately sell to the federal government. It's an intimidation tactic is what it is. And then over the weekend, a picture of these two brothers shows up on social media, currently of a guy by the name of Eric Wall, brother of the late Sports Illustrated soccer writer Grant Wall. He's right here in Kansas City. He got 200,000 views on this post on X. It's just a picture of these two brothers that run Platform Ventures here in Kansas City, Ryan and Terry Anderson. And he writes, Kansas City brothers set to ruin their own business legacy by selling a warehouse to ICE. It now has 200,000 views. It is a clear intimidation tactic. And now you have local city and county officials doubling down on that intimidation tactic. Manny Abarca, Jackson County Legislator. In fact, the chairman of the Jackson County Legislature putting on X last night. Hashtag Kansas City, Jackson County, Missouri folks make choices, and good elected officials will respond. I will be calling for a full review of all properties owned by Platform Ventures and calling for all incentives and agencies to recall incentives taken for our taxing jurisdiction by speculators like these. Abarca writes, no more Mr. Nice Guy. You're with us, parentheses, the U.S. democracy, or you're with them, the fascists. That was from Manny Abarca. So let me get this straight. The guy claiming people who disagree with him on long-standing bipartisan immigration policy is now the guy calling Kansas City business owners fascists and threatening government retribution for a legal transaction he doesn't like. Who's the real fascist here? That's what I want to know. Who is the real fascist in all of this? Is it the two brothers who run a legal business in Kansas City who may sell that business to the federal government in a totally legal operation as they try to implement bipartisan congressional immigration law? Or is it the politician threatening a private business because he doesn't like what they may legally do with their property? So Manny Abarca, who, listen, is not the sharpest tool in the shed, if we're just being nice here, shared a post I put up making that very point, and he said, kind of like your president, Pete Mundo. And I'm like, was that a cell phone? If you're saying Trump is the fascist, are you fighting fascism with fascism? In which case, you're not the good guy that you claim to be. You're not. Which one is it? You say in your original post that I'm the good guy, I'm fighting for democracy. And then I say, well, hold on, who's the real fascist here? And you say, well, Trump, which is always their answer to everything. The response to everything is just Trump. And then when you think through it and you say, okay, Trump's a fascist, so you're responding to your alleged fascist with other fascist tendencies, you're both then acting like fascists by your own point, which disproves your original point, claiming you're the good guy and they're the bad guys. So this whole thing is so, I think, borderline illegal. And you know what? As some people have been saying, their lawyers may ultimately thank people like Manny Abarca for putting this stuff on social media when they sue the Jackson County Legislature into oblivion. The government cannot target people like they're trying to right now in Kansas City and Jackson County. And that's what you've got going on here with this situation. And it started with the Star. It got worse on social media. And it is very dirty, nasty politics that you're seeing being played right now. So we'll have more on this coming up on KCMO because the mayor commented on this. He was on Face the Nation over the weekend. What did he have to say about this potential facility? Where does it all go from here? And what other members in local politics are commenting on this? Okay, so you've got this group, Platform Ventures, just a Kansas City-based company who owns the warehouse in South KC on Botts Road that has gotten national attention as a potential future ICE detention facility. Kansas City Star is now highlighting and talking about the two brothers who run the firm, run the company. And they're trying to, I believe, get them as like the center of attention, make them a household name, and dare I say, basically dox them. That's really what this feels like to me. They're Rockhurst guys, Ryan and Terry Anderson, 40s, give or take, and they're doing nothing illegal, nothing wrong. You had Manny Abarca more or less threaten them yesterday, saying he's going to review everything that they do here in Kansas City from a business side and basically see how he can punish them if they ultimately sell to ICE, sell to the federal government. And then Jonathan Duncan, Kansas City, Missouri city councilman, puts up on social media Saturday night, Ryan and Terry Anderson want to sell out our community to ICE. May they never so much as get coffee or go to the grocery store without whispers and glares. Let's force them to save face and make a different choice. Is that not a threat from a Kansas City politician towards private citizens who are abiding by the law, who may ultimately make a business decision that is in their best interests, their company's best interests, that is in no way illegal? You may not like it, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So now we have Kansas City, Missouri council members targeting private individuals. That's what we have here over this ICE detention facility. Let's be clear. That's what's going on in Jackson County and in Kansas City. They don't like what this business may do, and now they're basically targeting them and doxing them. First off, selling out our community to ICE? What kind of emotional nonsense is that? It would be a center in South Kansas City, potentially, that would, yes, be used as a detention facility for people who get arrested by ICE. That's what it would be used for. That's true. As ICE goes out there and enforces federal immigration laws, which they're supposed to be doing. And now this, may they never so much as get coffee or go to the grocery store without whispers and glares? Adding, let's force them to save face? In a heated political climate like what we find ourselves in right now, is that the kind of rhetoric that should be coming out of city council in Kansas City right now? Is that what we should be doing? Is that responsible from members of your city council or your Jackson County legislature? Of course not. It's despicable is what it is. And it should not be tolerated for a second, even if you don't want to see an ICE detention facility end up down there. Even if you don't want that, and you have every right to not want that, and for that to be your opinion. To now have these guys' faces plastered all over social media, getting 200,000 views on X, and basically being threatened by their local government, this has now taken gone to a new level here. Is what this has done to. A new level. John's in Kansas City. Hey, John, you're on KCMO.
Yeah, John and I were just talking. This used to be back in the old days with, I know you're Italian, but the mob used to do this thing, it was called racketeering. Do what I like or, pay for your fire insurance or you might get a fire in your house.
And by the way, I'm not offended by the mob reference there. It's all good, John.
Saying Manny Abarca is basically doing the same thing. It's illegal. You can't tell somebody, if you do this, I'm going to specifically target you and have retribution against you on a government level. It's illegal.
Yep.
Their freaking lawyers will have a heyday. The county is already in trouble. They're going to owe millions of dollars to these guys. They already could for defamation already.
Yeah, and you know what? They better start fighting back, man. I mean, if these guys think they're going to slink their way into the background and just hide and it's all going to be okay, it's not. Okay, it's not. I've dealt with people like this. I do this every day. It's not going to stop. They're not going to be able to hide from this, John. I mean, I hate to say that. I wish I was wrong saying that, but this has gone to a new level. It's disgraceful what's happening in this town right now with these politicians, and these guys are not going to be able to hide from it. They've got to confront it at this point, whether it's legally, and also they should be doing media as well and defending their business and defending what they're doing.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same thing as frivolous lawsuits. If you pay off one, then you got to pay off 100 more.
Yes.
At some point, you have to put down your foot and say, no more. I'm tired of this. And here's my response. And unfortunately, I'm not a sue anybody guy, but at sometimes you have no other choice.
Well, I'm not either. I mean, I rip on some of these hucksters and shysters who just sue everybody and their mother every day. We make fun of them all the time, but this is not that. Okay, this is defending your business, your livelihood, your family, your name. That's what this is. Paul's in Kansas City. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Pete, I'm glad you're bringing this up. Look, hey, rugged individualism is alive and well in southern eastern Jackson County, and I'm hoping that Phil Laboda and Sean Smith stand up as a voice of reason and say, stop, we're not doing this. I'm in charge of this county, and we're not going to allow this, because this is doing with the mayor and Abarca is playing to the Brookside Waldo white elites. That's all this is for. And these guys need to stand up for Rockhurst. They got people behind them out here in southern and eastern Jackson County. We support you guys. You're free Americans to do what you want with your business. God bless you.
Who would have thought we'd have to say that, Paul? Thank you very much. Who would have thought we'd have to say that? You're free to do what you want with your business and sell your property who you're legally allowed to sell your property to without local officials threatening you personally and professionally. It is really gross. This was Mayor Lucas on CBS's Face the Nation over the weekend.
Can you actually stop the federal government from doing it?
You know, I think there's substantial question to it. The people of Kansas City have asked us to make sure, though, that we stand up for, in this situation, simple zoning, that we make sure that we share what is the viewpoint of the people of Kansas City. There absolutely is a supremacy clause. There's also a 10th Amendment. And so in our view, which is reserved to the states, which includes local zoning, local police powers, particularly where private contractors are in the transaction with the city, we have the opportunity to engage. There's been a long fight near us in Leavenworth, Kansas, for a prison and a military base, where they've also managed to reject the placement of a federal facility working through a private enterprise. So we wanted to make clear not only that people largely didn't want a 10,000-person detention facility near them, but also that they have to go through things like zoning, a special use permit. It sounds in some way boring. It is core to what government is. But I think taking us from perhaps the political issue, there's the simple one, which is in all of our communities, we want to make sure people are treated humanely. Converting a gigantic distribution facility next to railroad tracks and all of that into a warehouse for 10,000 people, for which it was never designed.
Yeah, we don't want the folks detained by ICE to have their sleep interrupted by the trains coming by. What does that have to do with anything?
I asked that myself. Mark had an answer, but I would be making an accusation that possibly wasn't there. But I'm more inclined to believe what Mark said.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous symbolism.
It's all emotional. Okay? That's all any of this is. Emotion. And that's now resulting in not Mayor Lucas, but other elected members in Jackson County and Kansas City threatening the business owners in South KC who may ultimately sell this warehouse to ICE. It's got to stop.